Humanity faced such terrifying creatures pouring in from another dimension. They swarmed, invading human cities, and even nuclear weapons exploding across an entire region were nothing more than a campfire for them to dance and wreak havoc. Humanity called them disasters. Hope was also slowly fading, as everyone resigned themselves to fate. Those people appeared with the name the 13 Zodiac Saints. Initially, 12 people were granted power from the supreme gods to deal with the disaster monsters. But suddenly one day, a 13th awakened one appeared from nowhere. Yet I was not blessed by any god. He just suddenly appeared so overwhelmingly. Along with the other 12 saints, he went to the Demon Tower to eliminate the Red-Eyed Sovereign, the leader of the endlessly multiplying disaster swarm. But afterwards, only 12 people left the tower, making everyone stunned and ask, where is that 13th person? Humanity mourned his sacrifice. Teammates cried before the press and media, but that was all bullshit. He did sacrifice himself to kill the Red-Eyed Sovereign, but it was because those damn dogs abandoned him and ran out. When he was struggling the most, he suddenly took a sword from behind from a teammate, then fell straight down the abyss, unable to get back up. The demon stared intently at him, in a state where his left arm was severed and his right arm was too exhausted to lift. But he was unwilling to die there. He reached for a knife and put it in his mouth, biting down hard, suppressing the groans of pain. He stood up, refusing death. Hatred swelled in his heart. He fought and fought, to find a way back to take revenge on those damned dogs, who had abandoned him alone in the Demon Tower. Could he get out of this place? One day before Li Jian was abandoned by his teammates at the Demon Tower, he and Taixu had an appointment at a fried chicken restaurant. The food had just been served still warm when Taixu stared at his friend's face and uttered a sentence with a serious expression like, coming out to his family tomorrow you will die. Hey Taixu, do you wish me dead? The other guy holding 2 chicken thighs burst into laughter, jealous because I am eating 2 thighs at once under his hood. Lon's scarred face was clearly visible under the light. One of his eyes was blind and white. The lack of hair growth and deep brown scars showed the marks of a life and death battle from a past time. Hugo was extremely annoyed when he heard his country bumpkin friend, Oh Taixu. He had told him to use his stage name to sound cooler, but the guy kept saying, Oh Taixu over and over again. It drove him crazy. Li Jian continued to happily eat chicken, clucking his tongue and telling Hugo, stop overthinking it. I am not that easy to kill, my friend. The disaster beasts that you 12 saints combined and squared would not even be 1/10 of the ones I have killed, so get that crazy idea out of your head. Hugo, although worried, immediately fell silent. With such a solid argument, how could he possibly argue? The Demon Tower was where the most dangerous disaster beasts reigned. It was also the greatest threat to humanity's safety. Everything began on the last day of the 20th century. The disaster beasts unexpectedly appeared from nothing, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction with overwhelming power. At the moment humanity was plunged into the darkest horror since the dawn of creation, 12 entities claiming to be supreme gods appeared. They promised to bestow upon humans power to overcome the disasters by having 12 awakened ones inherit their strength. 12 people sounds nice. I can be divided by 2 and by 4, such a perfect even number. Finally, the 13th awakened one appeared, whom no one claimed to have given birth to. To humanity, 13 is an unlucky number, and he was like an embodiment of Judas, the 13th apostle who betrayed Christ at the Last Supper. Even though he was not blessed by any supreme god, this awakened one was extremely powerful, even more so than the 12 saints combined. He was so strong that he became a thorn in the side, a cause for concern for those 12 zodiacs. Guess who that person is? Does the male lead looking like this resemble the guy with 2 chicken thighs and a scarred face at the beginning of the story? Maybe some parts resemble, some don't, but the blind left eye combined with the combo of baldness cannot be mistaken. It is indeed the male lead Gion. Hugo saw his friend had eliminated all the disaster beasts, making it easy for the whole group to advance inside, so he stepped forward and happily thanked him a few times. Li Jian slumped to the ground, looked up at his friend and said, stop flapping your mouth. Instead of those empty words, my friend could buy me fried chicken for 5 years. Would not that be more practical? Money was not an issue for Hugo, but that old-fashioned nickname was a problem. Only he called him by that name, and no matter how many times he asked him to change it, he would not. It drove him crazy. While everything else could be changed, Li Jian refused to change the way he addressed his best friend. While these two argued bitterly, 2 individuals belonging to the 12 saints laughed gleefully. If we defeat the Red-Eyed Sovereign today, we will be rich beyond measure. The fat guy could not close his mouth after all. It is the strongest disaster beast. Just a rough estimate, we will pocket at least $1 trillion. Li Jian, sitting nearby, heard them and kindly offered his advice instead of dreaming of mansions and luxury cars. You should go live in Hawaii for a comfortable life. So many countries have poured all their wealth and assets just to kill that Red-Eyed Sovereign, yet you keep focusing on money to get in. Are eggs trying to be smarter than ducks? The fat guy sneered, a vulgar smile spreading across his lips. You do not need to teach rich people how to spend money, okay? Then he hinted that he himself needed a lot of money to fix his scarred face and body, so Li Jian should not act arrogant and lecture him. Li Jian, insulted by them, only thought to himself that he should not waste his breath on this scum. He should just let them wander off so the water would be clear. Yet they still turned their heads back, howling with insane laughter. Let me tell you a tip for making money. Later, do not rush to appear. When called, wait until there are many victims. Then show up. That way, your bank account will ring more often. Gion exhaled, speechless, and at a loss for words. Saints, what a bunch of bastards. After dealing with the red-eyed sovereign, I must immediately get them out of my life. The whole group walked to a cave with sharp stalactites pointing downwards. 3 individuals from the Saints were astonished and frightened. This is... Then they looked up and had to crane their necks back completely to see the final boss, the red-eyed sovereign of the Demon Tower. It was as big as a mountain, with a multitude of horns protruding everywhere. The air around it was scorching hot. Just looking at it, the pressure was already so immense, making even a strong person like Gion cautious. The demon suddenly let out a challenging roar. The cave immediately shook violently. The ground cracked open, spewing forth a ray of magma. Gion flinched, covering himself with his hands, continuously jumping backward. The crack shattered, revealing a boiling river of magma beneath the ground. It pierced through the overlying rock, powerfully shooting straight up into the sky. The Saints also could not bear the pain, screaming by the intense scorching of the magma flow. It pierced through the entire demon tower, thrusting straight into the high sky, illuminating a vast expanse of the heavens. The magma shot out from all sides of the tower, looking no different from fireworks, welcoming the foolish humans who dared to set foot in hell. Heat and dust filled the air along with the recent explosion, scaring the Saints, who trembled in fear, only able to stare wide-eyed at the boiling magma river right at their feet. The earthquake had opened up a gigantic supervolcano, separating the Demon Lord and the intruders. In the hazy smoke, the red-eyed sovereign sat calmly on its throne. Its eyes glowed with malevolence, twisting into a triumphant smile, seeing the monster's immense power. The Saints' eyes widened, shaking like leaves, barely managing to scream, "Run now!" The whole group frantically ran in the opposite direction, constantly shouting, "How can we fight against such a hideous thing?" And those cowards dare to call themselves Divine Gion scornfully watched the Saints tuck their tails and flee like beaten dogs, only able to sigh deeply. His hand tightened around the sword hilt. He was alone, but still okay. His entire body erupted with immense power. Even if the sky falls today, it will definitely be me, Gion, who eliminates the red-eyed sovereign. Thinking his doing, he lunged forward with immense force, causing the ground beneath his feet to explode. He jumped directly at the Demon Lord, determined to fight it to the death. That was the beginning of the story as told by the survivors. As for what happened after that, no one knows that Gion was stabbed by his own teammates and fell into the desperate situation he is in now. How long has it been? He could not remember anymore, not knowing how the world outside had changed. Is there a difference in time inside and outside the tower? I have no idea, just thinking about it makes my head ache. Currently only one thought exists in Gion's mind, which is to kill all the demons and monsters in the Demon Tower. Because this is a special trap that will summon an infinite number of disaster beasts. Those vile Saints thought this was enough to kill him, forget it. Even though he had lost an arm and was covered in blood, they thought he was dead. I will surely survive and leave this place by then. I swear I will cut off the heads of each and every one of you bastards. Just wait there. Even if my teeth bite into this sword until they bleed. My eyes are still wide open, waiting for the day to avenge myself on you sons of bitches. Time flies like a dog running in the field, and in a flash, 20 years have passed. A disaster fell sprawling to the ground, screaming in panic. How could you come all the way here? A husky voice from the opposite side spoke. You are the last one. The two-horned disaster recoiled in horror, shouting, "Someone save me! Oh my god, wake up!" I said it was the last one, so who else would come to save it? Being so stupid deserves a one-way ticket to hell. The person who looked like a brawny man lifted his large flat foot. Stomping it down with a squelch, only red blood gushed out. The disaster lay motionless, dead and stiff. It is finally over, the middle-aged man gasped tiredly. This bearded man is Gion, ladies and gentlemen. The Demon Tower has really changed him. I almost did not recognize him. I thought killing all the demons would allow me to peacefully log out, but no. Suddenly the cave shook violently. Rocks and dirt continuously poured down like rain. Could this be the way for me to get out? A giant rock smashed directly into Gion's head, as if answering that question. He rolled to the ground unconscious, then was buried under layers of rock and dirt. The author is giving the male lead a lot of trouble. He already has a scarred face and bald head at the beginning of the story, and after one chapter, he gets hit in the head by a rock and dies. The real world out there under the blue sky was nothing but desolation and ruins. Underneath the pile of rubble, there was a desperate scream. Oh, run away! That wailing sound belonged to 2 young men running like mad. Today should have been a safe day, so they went out for a stroll. Who would have thought that what was madly chasing them was not girls, but 3 high-level disaster wolves? Ha ha ha, that is it, oh my. Because he was too panicked, the black-haired boy laughed and cried, "Damn it, I knew I should have trusted my intuition." This spiritual system player had foreseen that he would encounter an extremely powerful monster today, but he still recklessly went out. From behind, the wolf leaped up, rushing straight between the 2 young men, making them scream in extreme fear. Powerlessly slamming his hand on the ground, the black-haired boy still blurted out, "Damn it!" The disaster wolves had surrounded them from all directions. Now they could only surrender to death. What else could they do? The black-haired man angrily gnashed his teeth. If only Gion had survived and emerged from the Demon Tower. Back then, these wolves would just be 7 coarse dogs. A spiritual system player is different. His wish came true, brother. The gate of the demon tower suddenly opened. The 2 old men and the young man looked up in surprise, seeing a dazzling light. Like a flash that suddenly appeared completely white. Immediately after, a huge explosion with brutal destructive power occurred, shaking the entire city. The black-haired and brown-haired men had to try very hard to stay upright, standing near the tower without being blown away to witness the next moment. The earthquake subsided, only smoke and dust rose. The demon tower had disappeared at some point, leaving behind a volcanic crater. But these 2 young men, like cockroaches, still did not die, now struggling to crawl out, not understanding what had just happened. Suddenly, the brown-haired man's mouth gaped open, calling to the person next to him, "Jimin, there is someone." As he spoke, he trembled, pointing towards the recently collapsed tower, making his friend quickly look as well. A muscular, veiny arm appeared in the smoke. Looking like this, it certainly was not a monster. That is right, a tall, sturdy figure stood prominently amidst the desolate sea of fire. That person repeatedly pounded his fist angrily, cursing, "Your great-grandfather's damned dogs have returned." Jion angrily made his comeback to the real world, with his former muscular body, constantly cursing the bastards who had tricked him into that damned trap years ago. The hatred of being deceived, combined with the physical and mental pain of being tormented in the demon tower, merged into a terrifying rage. "You damn saints, you are dead meat." Jion's eyes glowed with frantic hatred. He roared. He definitely had to make them taste true despair. On that chaotic pile of rubble, some sounds loudly echoed, making the 2 guys below bewildered, not knowing what was happening, only seeing the disaster beasts being brutally beaten. That person threw a hook with one hand. One foot stomped, another one's head flat. Holy cow, I cannot believe it. The 2 old men and the young man were astonished. Mouths agape, even high-level awakened ones would find it hard to defeat orange-level monsters, yet he could easily handle them. So amazing. Holding the head of a disaster with one hand, stepping on the pile of its comrades' corpses with his foot. Jian chuckled gleefully. Accidentally glancing to the side, he suddenly saw some shadows lurking. He jumped up and disappeared from the sight of these 2, leaving them with big question marks. Less than a few seconds later, suddenly he jumped down from nowhere, destroying the 2 old men and the young man's hiding place, scaring them out of their wits. Why are you attacking us?" Jimin nervously retreated, while the brown-haired guy next to him was already in tears. So they were humans. They kept being stealthy, making Jion think there was a monster left. He turned his head this way and that, checking the situation. It seemed he had cleared everything. Seeing this, the 2 guys breathed a sigh of relief, then immediately began discussing excitedly about the person in front of them. Black-haired Jimin intended to sell the news of his escape from the tower to the tabloids, but brown-haired immediately stopped him, saying, "If you talk nonsense, he will skewer you." Seeing this, the 2 guys breathed a sigh of relief, then immediately began discussing excitedly about the person in front of them. Black-haired Jimin intended to sell the news of his escape from the tower to the tabloids, but brown-haired immediately stopped him, saying, "If you talk nonsense, he will skewer you." It turned out that right behind him was the remaining disaster beast, its eyes red drool, dripping, glaring down at the one who had just massacred the entire wolf pack, the alpha wolf. The 2 guys screamed in horror, tears and snot flying everywhere. Seeing him just standing there smiling like an idiot, they even kindly reminded him, "Run now, big brother." At the same time, the wolf's eyes lit up brightly with energy flashes crackling around its mouth. It angrily opened its mouth, wide, spewing fire at the humans. Hastily covering their heads, Jimin and his comrades tightly gritted their teeth in fear at the alpha wolf's sudden attack. The terrifying energy surge was aimed directly at the heads of the foolish humans. Powerful flames poured down, incinerating everything in their path. The entire area lit up brightly from that formidable firepower. After a long while, the smoke and fire gradually dissipated. Are we still alive? These 2 gods were lucky enough to escape death once again, living long enough to become goddamn legends. Directly hitting their eyes was a steady back and hair fluttering in the thick smoke. It was Gion who used a skill to protect the whole group from the wolf's attack. He protected us. The 2 guys' eyes widened in astonishment. A crisp laugh suddenly echoed. Truly a blockhead, an idiot. Gion's entire body erupted with energy, leaping high in the air to the astonishment of both the monster and the 2 lovebirds. His hand clenched into a fist. He plunged downwards. "If you are just a stupid dog, then die." As if rocket-powered, he thundered towards the beast, delivering an extremely powerful punch to its head. Rocks and dirt shattered into hundreds of thousands of pieces from this move, making the 2 gods panic, almost dropping their jaws. Gently landing on the ground, Gaon smiled triumphantly as the alpha wolf collapsed behind him. Its massive carcass lay sprawled on the ground, a bit unlucky for it, as it had provoked the wrong person. "So it is really over now," he coughed because of too much dust. Then he glanced back. "Hey, you 2. Making them flinch and almost roll off the stand. A dangerous aura immediately radiated around Gion. He slowly turned his head backward, making the 2 men stiffen, their voices trembling as they asked, where should we go?" "Of course, go buy me some food." Gion smiled cheerfully. His terrifying demeanor completely vanished. Leaving a moment of silence between the 3, he scratched his head and said with a chuckle, "And clothes too," making the 2 young men speechless. Why did you not say so? At first, did you want to scare us out of our wits?" A few hours later at a restaurant, the young man in the blue shirt slammed the bowl as big as a potty onto the table. While the 2 gods on this side looked at the bill, their faces turned pale, wanting to just disappear. "You ate so much, this pile is equal to the portions of 120 people. The young man in the blue shirt, who had eaten until his belly protruded like Jian, was sitting behind a towering stack of plates. "It is still our male lead, Gaon. Everyone does not. He look impressive. Seeing the distressed expressions of the two old men and the young man, he grumbled, I know you do not have much money. I have already eaten less. Who said they promised to buy him everything to repay his life-saving grace? It is only a little bit, and they are already complaining. I need another portion of noodles to cleanse my palate. Seeing him order more food, the brown-haired guy bristled, jumping up. Human endurance has its limits. Please understand, for 20 years, he was trapped in the tower. I do not know what he ate anymore. Black-haired Jimin calmly asked for the identity of the glutton who suddenly appeared around the tower. It could only be an apostle or a saint troop leader. What is this apostle and saint troop business? I came out of the tower. Jaeon happily and calmly changed the subject, asking who these two were. He could feel magic from Jimin, so he must not be an ordinary person either. Because he is an apostle, the brown-haired guy next to him helped answer his questions, and Jimin was puffing out his chest proudly. Am I not also an awakened one, blessed by the gods? He was about to scoop a mouthful of rice, but hearing saint and God made Jion angry. Why should I serve those damned bastards? But suddenly he saw his reflection in the spoon. WTF, whose smooth rosy face is this? He sprang up like a spring shouting, where is a mirror, making the waitress nervously point to the other side. Jion hastily took off his shirt. I know he has a good muscular body, but why take off your clothes in someone else's restaurant? Hey! He was utterly astonished to see a flawless glowing face, and a 16-pack body without a single scar in the mirror. His wounds were extremely difficult to heal. After kneading for a while, Jaeon was sure he had returned to his original form, even more handsome than before. Even his severed left arm had been healed. While admiring his new arm, he discovered a faint mark. Suddenly, from that mark, something slowly became clear. Just a few seconds later, a tiny snake fully materialized as soon as he clearly saw the snake's form. Jiyeon's entire arm hurt so much that he had to clench it, enduring some kind of power surging within him. Then suddenly, a system appeared with the words, "You have just experienced death and achieved the impossible feat." His previous abilities would be transferred to his new body. All achievements in the tower would also be converted into experience points. At the same time, he received the Zodiac skill. Furthermore, Gion could use the power of the Ophiuchus constellation. Jiyeon painfully accepted the power from that energy source, then slowly closed his eyes. His body seemed to sink into an indefinite void. When he opened his eyes, he found himself flying amidst the Milky Way. Facing him was the glowing red eyes of a snake spirit extremely close to him. It twisted its massive body, coiled up, and pressed its head close to Jiyeon. His face showed clear signs of shock and bewilderment. His hands, as if pulled by an invisible energy, made him touch the head of the snake spirit. The point of contact on his skin glowed with a magical light, as if the entire universe was bestowing blessings upon him. But just a second later, all images suddenly disappeared. Jiyeon was sitting on the ground, his face full of astonishment. His face was drenched in sweat. He had not fully recovered, unsure if what he had just seen was real or a dream. "Hey bro, are you okay?" Jimin suddenly appeared in front of him, pulling Jiyeon's soul back to reality. He fumbled with his hands, asking Jimin, "Have you seen a snake this big?" "I have not seen any snakes, but I clearly saw you dancing naked in front of the mirror," Jimin explained. But he did not want to hear it anymore. Why did no one see that snake demon? Seeing him mumbling to his hand again, the two guys were a bit concerned about the sanity of the person who had just saved them. He must be a bit out of his mind. Feeling sad and extremely confused, a notification appeared again, congratulating him on becoming the owner of the constellation of Ophiuchus, along with a series of other information running back and forth. The 13th god Gion, the chairman of Ophiuchus, and skills were continuously activated. Among them, the super regeneration skill caught his attention the most. This skill helps to restore all damage to the body, but resistance will be reduced by 50% for 1032 hours. Now he understood that this new body was due to that skill. But why had he never heard the saints mention this before? Moreover, he did not even feel the presence of any god. Oh well, forget about it. As long as his body was restored, he did not have to worry about other things. The only thing he wanted to do most at this moment was to kill every bastard who stabbed him in the back, along with the hypocritical saints who abandoned him in the demon tower. Just thinking about torturing those bastards, Jiyeon became unusually excited. The murderous aura emanating from him made the two old men and the young man tremble. At the collapsed demon tower, the police had cordoned off the area. An investigation team was sent to find out the cause of this impenetrable place's disappearance. The inspectors believed that this would only cause more chaos in the world. Perhaps it was caused by Jiyeon's fan club members, or perhaps by the apostles who hated him. Apostles, Mr. Thin. Khan looked at these disaster wolves with skepticism. Even high-level saints find it difficult to hold them back, let alone nameless nobodies, proving that the perpetrator of all this is extremely powerful. Mr. Fat Khan, after hearing this, also felt a bit nervous. Could it be that Jiyeon has really returned? God only knows, my friend, Mr. Thin Khan exhaled. Just wait a little longer. Everything will become clear soon. In the green zone of the city, where a building with more than 10 stories stood tall. Cameras were operating at full capacity. Reporters frantically asked questions about the collapse of the demon tower, constantly wondering if the 13th Saint Jiyeon had returned. Yang Wei the pulsing. Yang Saint, the representative answering the interview today, was clearly not happy with these questions. He raised the microphone. Hello. I have nothing to say about this matter." Then he walked away, dismissing them amidst the angry shouts of the reporters. What was that? Was that an answer or not? The Rolls-Royce sped through the damned street. Yang Wei angrily smashed his glasses. What was it about that bastard Jiyeon that interested those vultures so much? It turned out this guy was bitter because Jiyeon had stolen all his spotlight. No one was paying attention to him, which made him so furious. As for that scarred guy, they said he was still alive. After 20 years of being abandoned in that tower, that is impossible. Yang Wei gnashed his teeth, reassuring himself there were tens of thousands of demons in there, and all of them were high level. Defeating the red-eyed sovereign was already a miracle. He could not have survived all those injuries. Most importantly, that bastard did not receive blessings from the gods like him. But what if Lon really survived? Yang Wei frowned deeply, exhaling a puff of shisha smoke in a daze. Then he flew into a rage again. At worst, I will just kill him one more time. At the same time, Gion, who had eaten until his stomach was full, was eagerly looking at his phone, muttering to himself, should I eliminate this bastard first? Also under the blue sky, at an airport far away, specifically in England, a private jet had just landed. New leather shoes appeared on the boarding stairs, and endless greetings rang out. It is our honor to welcome one of the 12 Zodiac Saints. The airport staff respectfully bowed 90 degrees, greeting the blonde man. That was Hugo, the Sagittarius Saint. Hugo, with his hands in his pockets, leisurely walked down, and the staff immediately directed him to a car to go to the Prime Minister's office. As soon as he left, the security guards immediately switched to fanboy mode, praising him from head to toe. As expected of a saint, even the government has to yield a few points. The supercar sped towards the Prime Minister's office. Hugo sat in the car, his eyes gazing into the distance. Suddenly, his phone vibrated, interrupting his thoughts. Damn reporters. Hugo scowled. They have been bothering him for days because of the ridiculous rumor that Jeon is still alive. Looking at the phone, seeing unfamiliar numbers calling, Hugo angrily slammed his hand down. It has been more than 20 years. How could he still be alive? Hugo hung up immediately to avoid hearing the ringtone. Then he stared blankly out the window again, remembering the day he warned his best friend about death. But he still confidently laughed, chewing chicken loudly. It is just death. What is there to be afraid of? Throughout the journey of conquering the Demon Tower, Hugo had been outside dealing with the disasters under Jeon's command. At that time, he secretly prayed that his prophecy was wrong, so his best friend would return safely. But those saints abandoned Jeon. They gleefully returned to claim the red-eyed sovereign's head, being praised and recognized for their achievements as heroes revered as saints. From then on, power and money also poured in like a flood in the following days. Hugo in the hospital still did not believe that Jeon was dead. He repeatedly requested a search, but it was unsuccessful. Hugo still clearly remembered the bastard Zhang-Louis Moleng, the Cancer Constellation chairman, who completely ignored his request to search for Jeon. He gave the reason that the beasts in the tower would escape and harm the people, and no matter how strong Jeon was, he could not survive alone inside. He knew that, so he arrogantly said, if you are worried about Jeon, you can go search for him yourself, and even threatened to strip Hugo of his saint title. His despicable expression, Hugo still remembered clearly to this day. Although very distressed, Hugo had to clench his teeth and endure. 20 years had passed, and there was no news. Perhaps Moleng was right. That was impossible, and now it was too late. But from Hugo's eyes, full of unspoken thoughts, it was clear he always remembered his best friend's defiant demeanor. Just then, the driver announced that the Prime Minister was calling. He hastily put his thoughts aside and answered the phone immediately. What can I do for you, sir? As soon as he picked up, the Prime Minister asked Hugo about the collapse of the tower, making him completely disheartened. First the reporters, now him again. It was too tiring. He secretly thought the Prime Minister just wanted to use this to increase his re-election votes. He immediately refused, firmly asserting that he was dead. The Demon Tower incident was just caused by the people in his friend's fan club, angrily thinking that the Prime Minister just wanted to take advantage of this to increase his re-election votes. He was about to lecture the old man when he immediately denied it. The Prime Minister's face clearly showed tension as he announced a strange phone call. What kind of call? Hugo asked, sitting upright, not finishing his sentence, leaving others waiting. It was Jeon's exclusive communication line. The answer was like a bolt from the blue. Hugo could not contain his excitement and agitation, frantically slamming his hands on the chair and screaming loudly, "Stop the car!" It was not until the car screeched to a halt that he temporarily calmed down, frantically reaching for his phone. Don't tell me Jeon just called. The screen immediately displayed 30 missed calls, along with a voicemail. Damn it. Hugo's mouth hung open, worried. He pressed the voicemail, slowly brought it to his ear, his mind in complete chaos. "Hey, oh Taiksu!" A familiar, playful voice rang out. "I will find you and kill you. Good luck." Hugo was completely rigid and bewildered after hearing it. His eyes stared blankly into the void. Lee Jeon. Immediately after, he ordered the driver to turn back to the airport, forgetting all about the business trip. What the hell is a Prime Minister? I have to go find my best friend. Returning to the restaurant in Korea, Jeon smirked, staring at his phone. This kid, oh Taiksu, has grown up. How dare he ignore my call? If I catch him, he is dead for sure. Looking at the smartphone with delight, Jeon was a little excited, drooling. He was thrown into the tower in 2005. Now it is 2025. The world has changed so much, he still has not adapted. Jimin then happily explained to the person in front of him, "You can connect to the internet to read the news too. Really, I must quickly find my name to see if there is anything interesting." Jimin kindly showed him where to see the top trending articles. A series of information related to Jeon were all prominently ranked, high, making both the owner and the kid Jimin widen their eyes in admiration. But the joy did not last long. It quickly faded. The pile of hate comments was harshly hitting his face. They dared to call him useless, and then the 12 seats down, 12 saints had to carry him until their backs broke. Does not that make his blood boil? Jeon furiously gripped his phone, making his little brother Jimin jump in fear. "My phone, brother, please be gentle. Your daddy is the one who defeated the red-eyed sovereign, you brainless idiots, Jion furiously raged. But he immediately calmed down, not bothering to argue with idiots. Scrolling through a few more articles, he suddenly saw a news article with a headline about his will. He remembered that back then, Jion had agreed to donate all his assets to the orphanage and the scholarship fund. He happily clicked on the link, hoping that this will would be carried out properly. But to his surprise, all of his assets had been completely seized by the Saints, except Hugo, and they even twisted the information claiming he wrote the will himself and left it to them. Damn you all, Jion exploded in rage, crushing his phone. I will chop you all into 100 pieces. Hyman fell to his knees in despair, looking at his newly bought smartphone, now just a pile of scrap metal, crying goodbye. My love, what a tragic death, crushed to pieces. After reading the news articles, Jion fell silent, lost in thought. What should I do now, even though he really wanted to show off his spectacular comeback? But now he looked too different from 20 years ago, fearing that if he spoke, no one would believe him and they would send him to a mental hospital. Jion decided to remain silent and secretly deal with each saint, then figure things out later. The kid Jimin was still crying, bidding farewell to his phone. It turned out this guy had not even finished paying for it in installments before Jion destroyed it. While the brown-haired guy was patting his friend's back to comfort him, he suddenly felt a strange energy from behind. The system confirmed a warning that someone was watching, and this foul smell also seemed familiar. Thinking this, Jion quickly made an excuse to go outside and breathe some fresh air to investigate the surroundings. His flip-flops stopped at that spot. A pile of goat heads were floating towards him. Isn't this the guardian deity of Ares? Were they not controlled by the supreme gods, acting according to their will? What are they doing here? Jion did not know, but the system knew that these guardians were showing off to him, demanding delicious and nutritious offerings, because the power of the supreme gods had greatly diminished. Damn it, these damn bastards! What the hell are you doing? Jion immediately went berserk. He hated this kind of embezzlement and robbery of assets the most. An angry energy surged today. I will teach you a lesson you will never forget. As he walked towards the goat heads with surging momentum, he suddenly heard curses. Damn it is that crazy Jion again. He was about to fight when he heard someone curse his name directly. He turned around and saw a couple cursing the legendary Jion. These past few days, news about him had been flooding the news feeds, annoying them. He is dead. So why do people still care? It is annoying. The sunlight shone on the gleaming badge on their chest. Jimin immediately recognized it as the symbol of the Gemini Association. For some reason, a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. Seeing Jion just standing there blocking the couple's way, Jimin nervously screamed, "Hey, come here quickly, do not get involved with those people." But he still stood still, showing no emotion, making the fat guy angry. "Do you like looking? Get out of my way." Seeing this, the two young men worriedly cried, "Oh no, we are screwed. This trip is completely over, guys." Not seeing any reaction from him, the fat guy took a drag from his cigarette, then blew it directly into Jion's face. Are you mad? He did not know that he had just activated the destruction mode within Gioni. He even provocatively headbutted him. "If you are mad, then hit me." His girlfriend hastily stopped him, not because she was afraid of him starting a fight, but because she was afraid this scruffy young man would piss his pants. After that, they walked away, not forgetting to leave a remark dickhead, then constantly claiming that he belonged to the loser group that supported Jion. Even though they had gone far away, their taunts kept piercing his eardrums. Jimin saw Jaeon control his anger, then ran over to remind him. Those two belong to rank A Gemini constellation. If you mess with them, it will be hard to survive. Before he even finished speaking, Jion roared, "Hey, you damned insects!" Jimin's eyes welled up with tears again. He secretly thought to himself this time, "I am definitely dead, man." Not believing that loser would dare to talk back to them, the two men angrily turned back and growled, "Who did you just call?" He only saw Jion and a surging wave of anger. "I called you. You two are quite a pair." The fat guy hastily stomped towards him. He pressed his face close to Jaeon, snarling, "If you are so good, say it again." At this point, his challenge to Jaeon was completely wrong. He leisurely raised his hand. With a light flick, the fat guy was sent flying dozens of meters away, like a bag of trash. His large fat body slammed to the ground, tearing up the entire area into a pile of rubble, making the short-haired girl scream in fear. And the two cowardly guys were also so scared that their jaws dropped. Jion was gleefully laughing at the fat guy's spectacular fall. He did not care about the angry glare of the guy's girlfriend directed at him a moment later. He suddenly burst out laughing. "Do you think I did not know you were behind me?" The short-haired girl, taking advantage of his inattention, had sneaked behind him, intending to gather strength for a sneak attack, but she did not expect to be caught so easily. Another slap was unleashed. The girl was sent flying just like her boyfriend, a perfect pair of flattened cockroaches. Looking at her fall to the ground, he just coldly uttered a sentence, "Weak," and still showing off. The Jimin group trembled, asking why he dared to use his power in the middle of the street. Isn't he afraid of Mr. Kan coming to arrest him? These guys are really funny. How could his power be so weak? If I unleash my true skill, that couple would have been sold for salt a long time ago. Oh my god. He mercilessly beat the rank A apostle with just a flick of his finger. Why do these two old men and the young man keep going from one surprise to another today? Their mouths are constantly agape. Ignoring the excessive reactions of those fools, Jaeon's eyes were drawn to something else. He squatted down next to the fat guy, picked up his necklace, then snatched it away. Isn't this a holy relic? He had noticed it since he fought with the guy. How could such an ignorant thug possess such a valuable item? He remembered that before only the 13 saints were allowed to wear this. Now it is widely circulated like this. What about limited edition items? Jimin was astonished that this god knew nothing, so he had to use his mind-reading technique to explain to him humanity was almost extinct after the disasters appeared decades ago. Humanity has survived until now, thanks to the supreme gods and the saints they chose, but 12 people cannot protect the entire world. They had to gather people and establish holy guilds. Anyone who can awaken will be granted power by the saints and are called apostles like me. Brother, please forgive my nephew for showing off a little. From then on, a ranking system was created to divide ranks headed by saints, down to SS rank commanders. Below S rank commanders are called the 10 stars. From rank A downwards, all are generally called apostles. The supreme gods stand above all. Their power comes from the absolute faith of the apostles, so they devised a bunch of competitions to increase the number of people joining the holy guild. Those who are chosen will be given gifts and all sorts of things. Jimin just briefly summarized it like that. Understand if you understand, and if you don't, try to understand. What the hell, I've only been absent for 20 years, and the world has gone crazy. I do not understand this convoluted system at all. Look, Jimin eagerly pointed to the sky, but not in endless despair. Look, Jimin eagerly pointed to the sky, but not with endless despair. But it was just a group of guardian deities surrounding Jian. The system informed him that among the group in front, there were guardian deities of prosperity and greed. They wanted him to kill the couple just to see blood spilled. In return, Jian would receive a gift, a kind of quid pro quo. That young man looked exhausted just from a glance. There is no greater foolishness than attracting the attention of guardian deities. If they speak and you do not comply, it is no different from rejecting the words of the supreme gods. Then, enduring their wrath, he was about to advise his friend to follow their words. Jian let out a chuckle, looking up, not happy at all, but his eyes were irritated and annoyed. A moment ago, I was wondering why Yang Wei's hounds were here. Now I understand everyone from the Yang faction wants to fill their stomachs with delicious food. Picking up the worn-out flip-flops from someone's bathroom, Jian mumbled some phrases that clearly sounded like curses. He stomped heavily on the sidewalk with a thud, creating a swirling aftershock. Continuously gushing and sweeping away all the guardian deities above, these guys are probably only good at bragging. Not even able to resist one bit against this dazzling and powerful light. One kick from Jian blew away all the guardian deities in the city, restoring the clear blue sky. Jimin opened his eyes full of bewilderment, seeing Jian's familiar trademark smile. Above, the guardian deities had scattered, and without them and the barriers, the sky's original color became clear. And from here, Jimin realized that this scruffy young man was not normal at all. Suddenly, he called out his full name, Han Jimin, then pointed at the foaming at the mouth fat guy and asked again, "Did you just say this was a Gemini apostle?" Yes, that guild is both crowded and dangerous. Many members also have influential figures. No one wants to mess with them. Suddenly hearing Jian ask a random question, "Are they very rich?" Jimin was about to ask again when he saw him flash a villainous smile. "Look at all the things this guy is wearing. They are all designer brands. My time has come." Jian squatted down, snatching the LV shirt, singing la la la. "Now I do not have to spend money on clothes. 20 years in the Demon Tower, living no different from a hairy ape in an abandoned zoo. Now with a fresh haircut." Jimin gave him a slap, praising him, saying he looked quite handsome, making Jian genuinely shy. Plus back then, even though he was the 13th saint, his power often backfired. Every gust of wind was like blowing through a field of dandelions, making his hair fly wildly, looking like a patchy-haired uncle next door, now with a handsome idle haircut. How could Jian not be pleased? Suddenly, a buzzing sound next to him caught Jian's attention. He looked over unhappily, and discovered it was a mosquito-like monster nearby. "If there is no electric swatter, I will use my hand." Jian hated these insects, so he extended his powerful hand to crush it, releasing the remnants in front of Jimin's admiring eyes. Just killed one, and a few more buzzing sounds. Jian's dog-like ears became increasingly picky. Seeing this, Jimin curiously asked, "You know the saying, flies gather on shit, is that you? Am I supposed to admit I am shit?" Jian strongly dismissed Jimin's hypothesis, looking around to find what attracted these insects. His eyes landed on some colorful, cumbersome items on the cabinet shelf, immediately telling him that the reason was those items. That statue of the goddess, which Jian called an evil artifact that attracted disasters. Jimin cried without tears. "I did not pick that up from the dump. I received it directly from the Aries saint." His face was extremely proud as he introduced the blessed item from the saint. A gust of wind instantly swept 2 parts of the statue to daylight. Moreover, Jian acted as if he had just touched something filthy. Ignoring Jimin's aching heart, the item he had cradled like a precious flower was now in Jian's hand with a cold expression. He said this mask is for monitoring the buyer kid. After speaking, he rummaged through all the nooks and crannies this music box for stealing information. This watch attracting disaster beasts, he found more and more filthy things in the house. Jian realized that those bastards not only stole his money, but also sold evil artifacts to unsuspecting people to siphon their money. Just thinking about it made his forehead and face twitch gradually. No matter how much Jimin regretted it, he dared not approach to stop him. From outside the house, Jian's roar was clearly heard. "Throw everything away." Suddenly the door opened. The sound made Jian, who was about to crush the evil watch, stop for about 2 seconds. Glancing at the red-haired boy who had just entered the house with a grim expression, Jian, despite being in someone else's house, blurted out, "Who the hell are you and why are you here?" Jimin tried to put on a conciliatory expression, calling, "Brother Sungjae, are you back?" But Sungjae did not listen. He only heard Jian's rude question. He touched his face and retorted, "You are asking who I am." I am the owner of this house. Sung Jae's entire body erupted with a blue power, his face darkened, ready to protect his house. Jion just said as if he had just realized that it was perfectly normal for the homeowner to enter his own house, surrounded by the three of them, scattered and broken items. It suddenly felt like being caught cheating. From outside Yang Wei's Ares Holy Guild, the desperate shouts of the fat man could be heard. Yang Wei heard the news that the guardian deity in Korea had disappeared, and his face turned pale. His subordinate below confirmed it again, adding that the Ares Holy Guild branch in South Korea was in a state of extreme panic because of this. Yang Wei also felt that something was wrong because he had never heard of this happening before. Guardian deities are subordinates of the supreme gods. No fake awakened one would dare to drive them away. Who would dare to act so brazenly? Pointing to his subordinate, he instructed him to contact the other saints to see what the situation was. Yang Wei was about to leave when he heard additional information that the Sagittarius side had not responded. That Hugo is now a mercenary in England, it is normal not to be able to contact him. Yang Wei originally did not care. But his subordinate hesitated, then said that Hugo had left England immediately after arriving. Where did he go? This made Yang Wei pay attention, and when he heard that Hugo's destination was also Korea, he immediately turned around and thought for a long time. Could such a coincidence have a reason? From the beginning, Hugo was Jion's best friend. After Jion was buried in the Demon Tower, he rarely returned to Korea. Could it be because of the rumor that Jion is still alive that has been spreading recently? If it is just a rumor, and Hugo goes there to confirm it, then it is fine. But if that scarred, long-haired guy really survived and returned, then what would Yang Wei do? He immediately grabbed the intricately carved candle holder nearby. He threw it directly at the subordinate below to vent his anger. Luckily, he dodged in time. Investigate this thoroughly, and what else say it now? Seeing his boss lose patience when he heard about Jion, the subordinate was also nervous, but there was still something to report. An Ares apostle was found unconscious near where the guardian deity disappeared. He was left on the cracked road with only his underwear on, according to witnesses. He had a conflict with a handsome man, but no one knew how handsome he was. So Yang Wei's eyes just stared at the broken candle holder on the ground, immediately denying it. It definitely was not Jion, because he is a scarred, blind-eyed man with a large bald spot. But in any case, all these things were too coincidental. Plus the rumor that Lon has returned, and Yang Wei's failure to conquer the Spider Queen could shake his political standing. Not allowing that to happen, Yang Wei demanded a private jet to pick him up immediately. His subordinate looked up, somewhat confused. Is the saint going there himself? Yes, now entrusting matters to those underlings. Yang Wei is not at ease. He must go to Korea himself to see what is happening. He swung his jacket over his shoulder and clipped a cigar to look like a busy man, bringing some of his subordinates with him to witness what was happening in South Korea firsthand. That night in the Ares-affiliated hospital, the sound of the machine connected to a motionless person on the bed beeped steadily, along with the sound of the breathing machine, made the elderly man furiously roar again. Who made my grandson like this? He beat my grandson to a pulp and stripped him naked, and he still hasn't woken up, and I don't even know who the culprit is. He pointed at a man in a white suit, leaning against the wall, stubbornly demanding an answer. A standard answer from the S-rank Ares apostle came from Min Sung-hoon's mouth, saying, "Don't worry. The Ares Holy Guild sent me here to take care of this." Sung Jae thought he had just heard the funniest thing in the world, but he couldn't laugh. He just frowned and asked, "Did you meet this guy at the Demon Tower?" And then this guy cleared out all the disaster beasts with his bare hands, and he even defeated an A-rank apostle. Jimin knew his story sounded like he was high, but he couldn't do anything but nod vigorously to increase credibility. But even if he believed that, Sung Jae was still furious, because this guy entered someone else's house and smashed things with an extremely unreasonable excuse that all the furniture in this house was evil artifacts and fakes. What guild do you belong to that you dare to say such things? But does Gion look like he needs to join a guild? He let out a cackle, making Sung Jae want to shut him up, but he still managed to ask which supreme god he followed. Those guys should follow me instead. John did not hit the main point at all, and whenever he heard about those 12 idiots, a vein popped out on his head. No matter what he was asked, John gave absurd answers. As if he was someone new to this world, Sung Jae was completely speechless. He patiently asked the final question, "What is your name?" If he gave another nonsensical answer, he would surely get punched. "It is Jaeon." He stated his name as if it was the most normal thing. But Sung Jae erupted in a furious blaze of indignation at his answer. Then he unleashed all his power and roared, "How dare you impersonate my lord Jeon on. Jimin was scared to death, quickly reminding him, "We are still inside the house. Grandpa, it is a rental. Don't be crazy." But Sung Jae was in a fit of rage. He did not care. He just unleashed all the magic of the Ares Apostle, causing the system panel to pop up a warning to John immediately. "It looks cool and all, but you are just going to burn this house down," John kindly warned. Then he activated the Divinity of Suspension skill. He saw Sung Jae's true strength. He was at rank A with the title Punisher. What caught his attention the most was Sung Jae's eyes blazing with the blue flame of an S-rank skill, Pyromancer along with an A-rank Eternal Ice Seal. More carefully, Jeon also read that this kid's personality was stubborn with his idol and a learning genius. He smirked. This kid is so young, yet he can use high-level summoning magic. Is it because he is a learning genius? Pretty cool. He is even casting 2 eyes on the statue behind him, about to blow this apartment complex to smithereens. Jimin almost peed his pants, screaming, "Oh, brother, run quickly. Sung Jae is an A-rank Ares apostle. If you mess with his idol John, you are in for it." Sung Jae tilted his head, warning Jimin, "Get out of here immediately. Do not die with me. You can mess with anyone, but mimicking my idol will not end well." John suddenly appeared right behind Sungjae with a hip-hop never dies hand gesture, grinning, making him flinch. As soon as he turned around, he took a full flick from John, sending his head crashing into the house wall. Well, that is fine if this crazy guy burns down the house. Where will he shower and rest? Jimin did not care about the house anymore. He just hoped Sungjae would not die. John still had that perverted grin on his face which only doubled Jimin's worry. Why do you say he is fine when Sungjae looks like he is having a seizure? John left the red-haired foaming at the mouth guy to chime in, and himself yawned and stumbled into a nearby room to sleep. Little did he know when the door just opened. What hit his eyes was an entire room full of statues and models. Chibi versions of the legendary John restored with color and healed scars incredibly lifelike. Jimin carried Sungjae in and explained that his brother was just obsessed with John. It is nothing but he is John. Looking at his perfectly intact head, he was not used to it, so he snapped it off amidst Sungjae's horrified screams. Jimin was afraid he would go mad and bite John. He quickly pulled Sungjae out, leaving him inside to snap off all the statues' heads. Sungjae's soul was severely traumatized that day. Nothing remained but his screams echoing across the heavens and earth. The news in the city of Joseon, how could it ignore? The incident of the Ares apostle being stripped naked on the street by a suspicious person. Hugo heard about it and immediately recognized John's perverse style. He sighed heavily, confused he had just returned to Korea and had to hear this news. It was a headache. He was already annoyed when someone came to ask, "Do you want anything to drink?" Hugo angrily snarled, warning, immediately, "Stop talking nonsense and get lost. Yang Wei." The waitress chuckled, her eyes changing unnaturally, her voice shifting to a man's brazenly greeting. "Hugo, long time no see." Yang Wei still maintained the appearance of the waitress. He intimately put his arm around Hugo's neck, trying to extract information from him, but only made him even angrier. From the beginning, he had a good reason not to like this fat guy, and now he was groping around. It was disgusting. Seeing Hugo unhappy made him furious. Yang Wei immediately exited the employee's mind, making her panic and confused why she was standing so close to a male customer like this. Hugo was furious with Yang Wei's cowardly trick, but he could not punch anyone, so he could only swallow it, determined to find John before other dogs sniffed him out. But where to find him when only the remnants of perverse antics in Buchin remained? In the commercial district, Sungjae's soul had accepted the truth and returned to his body, now shopping at the supermarket with Jimin. Outside, he stubbornly said, "Leon is a hero of all humanity." What part of that guy at home is similar? He probably does not believe it either. But Jimin's eyes saw that person come out of the demon tower. That was the most convincing detail. Sungjae did not believe it that year. His father, the Sagittarius Saint, had told him that John died in the demon tower. Robbery, the two of them were still stunned, not understanding anything. A white light flashed, blowing everything on the street away. The robber, wearing a mask exactly like blue underwear, clutching a few banknotes, ran like the wind. At this speed, it could only be a cancer apostle using his power to steal. It crashed into everything in the supermarket, grabbing items and money so fast that it was invisible to the naked eye. Secretly happy in his mind, those saints could not even keep a single thing. It was about to escape to the next location to loot when someone's arm gently held it back. "Got you, little one." However, this catch landed directly in the robber's stomach, making him tremble and lie on the ground in pain until Jimin recognized that the one who caught him was John. Suddenly, from behind the checkout counter, someone's voice praised John's impressive method. "It is not easy to catch a cancer apostle normally, but from what I see, you are just a normal apostle. Next time you should not catch them with your hands calling. The police is better." John looked at the white-haired man in front of him, confused. What is this idiot mumbling about? The conversation had not even begun when it was interrupted by a perplexing clunking sound throughout the entire supermarket from top to bottom. The sound grew louder and louder, as if it was both underground and on the ceiling, and then everything inexplicably shook. The cancer apostle thief lying on the ground assumed there was an earthquake. Now's the time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he dashed away at the speed he was proud of. Almost got served by some random guy. Now your daddy's gonna play a non-stop mix and dance his ass off, dancing too happily, so someone got greedy. It dug through the ground and emerged right in front of the robber. Then it writhed its huge, many-legged body, saying, "Brother, let me dance too. I even have Wiener House music here." The appearance of a disaster beast in the green zone was enough to make the robber's face drained of all color. Now it even wanted to dance with him. What the hell? The robber slowly retreated. He wanted to avoid dancing with the monster, but also did not want to slow down and get caught by the police. It jumped high, wanting to avoid this centipede. Confident in its speed, even if it had 100 legs, it would not catch up. Unexpectedly, the centipede did not bother to chase, but a mouth larger than a well full of fangs opened right in the robber's path. The fangs closed decisively. The spider-chicken hybrid devoured it right in front of 100 people in the supermarket. The Spider Queen, covered in scales, waited for the lower part of her body to finish its appetizer. She then glanced at the people below with glowing eyes, as if choosing ingredients for her main course. Warning. Warning, this is not a drill. The disaster beast Queen Spider has appeared in the supermarket. All residents are required to evacuate as quickly as possible. Before her intro was even finished, the spider demon chanted a spell, unleashing a pile of insects of all kinds, pouncing on the people within sight. Which of you had the closest mukbang view but did not buy a ticket? You can pay with your life, I will take it all. In an instant, the entire supermarket descended into chaos, people screaming and running for their lives. To add to the drama, the announcement speaker continuously blared. This area has turned red. Damn it, everyone knows already, why do not you just play a remix to complete the set? While countless people ran for their lives and still died, a middle school kid utterly terrified by the unstable supermarket trip stood sobbing, oblivious to the fanged spider's mouth rapidly approaching. And just like that, it was exactly the right scene for the male lead to save someone. John threw a punch at the spider's head, nearly making it bleed. He also reminded the kid, if you are going to cry, stand back a bit. Afraid of the spider one. Afraid of the guy who just punched the spider 10. He extended his hand forward, making the boy so scared that his soul jumped back into his body. He quickly scurried away. He intended to play the role of a good guy, and all but unexpectedly, one glorious minute turned him into a country bumpkin. John had to switch targets to the demon beasts to fulfill his role as a hero, confused as to why they appeared in the green zone. Oh well, it does not matter why. It was also the perfect time for his snake to test its power. John enthusiastically looked at the centipedes, a smile spreading across his face as he began his midday exercise program. The sleek black car sped down the highway with priority. Inside, Yang Wei had just arrived in Korea when he received news of a disaster beast attacking the supermarket in Bucheon. Sweat poured down his head. He asked again what kind of monster it was. Surprisingly, it was the Spider Queen he had just encountered not long ago. Damn it, I am dead, guys. The last time Yang Wei with his big belly went to eliminate that disaster beast, he failed and could only seal it. Who would have thought it would escape? And now it is wrecking the supermarket in the green zone. The more Yang Wei thought about it, the angrier and more frustrated he got because he had boasted so much. And now he had to kill the monster alone, but he could not do it alone. Areas on Earth are currently divided into 6 color-coded levels. Blue is for high-ranking individuals like saints or authorities. Green is a safe zone for humanity to live. Yellow is still habitable, but you have to live hidden because it is already an alarm level. Above that is orange, where danger lurks everywhere with a large number of monsters. In the red zone, if you linger, you will only be prey for high-level beasts. And in the black zone, there is nothing left to find. Not even a thread. The Spider Queen appeared in the supermarket in the Bucheon area, officially changing that green zone to red. So the subordinate asked Yang Wei what he wanted to do with that supermarket. Tell them to bury that place. Yang Wei's hands tightened. He absolutely could not let the news leak that the Saints had lost a lot of resources just to eliminate the Spider Queen, but failed. Knowing full well he was acting recklessly, but having no ability other than giving orders, Yang Wei requested his subordinates to announce that the people there were dead and to send apostles to collapse the building. Inside that supermarket, unpleasant hissing and thumping sounds echoed as hundreds of large centipedes rushed in the same direction. Towards the bald, silver-haired man who looked like he had just been taken out of a freezer, smoke billowing from his mouth. Sung-hoon slammed his hand onto the ground, causing a long, icy streak, and cursed, "Damn these disgusting insects." The ice prison of the man with the top knot successfully froze about a dozen of them at once. But it also made him sweat for an S-rank, like Sung-hoon. One move that could freeze a whole group was already very successful. But before he could celebrate for 10 seconds, the ice began to crackle. The disgusting centipede rushed in for revenge. Although Sung-hoon had just created the ice, his head was now drenched in sweat. He had no strength left to resist. Suddenly, Jeon appeared right in front of him with a pile of soda cans in his hand, saying calmly, "Little snowflake, I am here." He looked around for a while, still not realizing where Jeon had appeared from, but since this stage was in his hands, he had to perform. He tossed a Coca-Cola can, but it was torn to hide the label. John asked, "Want some water to cool down, kids?" His hand holding the can emitted incredible power. Then all the cans were thrown at once. Everyone immediately got a can to drink as much as they wanted. Do not fight over them, okay? The centipede standing behind without a share was about to shriek, demanding its can. A can of water immediately came from right to left, blocking the shriek right in its throat. Damn it, he is giving out water, but his fangs are disgusting. John flashed past, giving each one a quick flick, closing their mouths to prevent them from fighting. The more he fought, the more excited he became. His eyes narrowed. Turning on flight mode, he circled once his blade, already covered in blood, making Sung Jae's mouth gape wide enough to fit a whole steamed bun. Hello, little brother. The system popped up, reporting successful disaster elimination experience points increased and obtained components. What components? Tell me more. The system summoned something that looked like a colorful stone in John's hand, telling him he could create new skills and holy relics with these components. He clutched the glowing item in his hand, planning to examine it later when he had free time. Currently, his body movements still met his requirements. John was in an extremely comfortable state. He did not pay attention to the little snowflake behind him, staring wide-eyed at his performance. What is more, he even comfortably returned the knife to Sung Jae, saying he carried it from home. Now I am returning it. Oh, great brother, now that you have returned the knife, who would dare to cut with it again? John's nonchalant expression made the man with the top knot think hard. It looked familiar. Finally, as if remembering something, he screamed, making John turn around and take a direct finger to the face. Are you the one who attacked our 2 apostles? Damn it, that fat guy criticized me and that ugly woman once was not enough. John was taken aback. He did not know why, but he lunged and punched the man with the top knot, dislocating his jaw. His mouth uttered a villainous sentence. You know too much, how could you find me? If you do not want people to know, do not do it. He was talking normally, then suddenly lunged and punched someone. What a bastard! The clothes you're wearing you stole from someone else. And you are even carrying an S-rank apostle's badge, flaunting it everywhere, asking why people do not know. John was pointed at and accused of stealing, but he felt no shame. He reached out and tore off the badge. He even wondered what kind of junk this was. was. It looks so country bumpkin, and I am carrying it everywhere. He completely ignored the little snowflake, making him furious. He wanted to grab his hair so badly. John crushed this cheap market item right in front of the Ares apostle, mumbling to himself that witch tricked these people into buying these things for 20 cents in the junk market. Hey, what about me? I am still in this conversation, don't interrupt. John, who was happy, suddenly became angry because that foul-mouthed thing interrupted him, recognizing him even before he did. Jimin trembled, pointing and gesturing his feet, nervously stepping back, because that was the Spider Queen, who was herding chickens from the other end of the supermarket, had now reached this spot. The man with the top knot did not argue with Jeon anymore. He just stood there barking nonsense, or he would end up in the underworld arguing. Luckily, he was standing next to Jeon. His body surged with a cool, minty energy, accompanied by a warp. He shot straight forward, yelling out, "Hey, you bitch spider!" He shot straight up to where the Spider Queen stood, getting ready to do a furious Kamehameha. Take Daddy's punch and get lost. Damn it, he told me to get lost, but he stomped straight down, making the floor and tiles sink. The crowd that was running frantically suddenly stopped running, their eyes wide open, looking towards the foul-mouthed creature that had just chased them. Jimin and Sungjae had seen John in action many times, but they were still not used to it. Not to mention the little snowflake whose mind only contained 3 letters, WTF. Who is this guy confronting the Spider Queen directly, without any holy relics? Moreover, he has a perverted grin on his face while he is bewildered. In his ear echoed the voice of a man calling all Ares apostles inside the supermarket. Out of the whole group, only Sungjae and the man with the top knot Sung-hoon heard him, because this was the voice of the Holy Guild commander, Choi Sung-yuk, transmitting a message to the Ares apostles. He was nearby, ordering both of them to get their butts out of the supermarket immediately. The Ares apostles would soon bury this entire building. Outside the supermarket, a red protective barrier, about 10 meters in radius, had appeared. They probably noticed the unusual atmosphere too. Choi Sung-hyuk, unlike an apostle, directly stated this was Yang Wei's directive, so they could not disobey him. He wanted the Ares apostles to conceal the truth that he could not control the Spider Queen. Min Sung-hoon, you have teleportation abilities. Quickly take Sungjae outside. The man with the top knot lost his composure and asked again, does the commander only want the 2 of them to escape? Because in his horrified eyes, many people had been lucky to escape that massacre, yet he was saying to leave them to die here. Below the crack, countless centipedes were still emerging, and that perverse young man was still lunging back and forth, fighting the Queen Spider. That truth made Sung-hoon struggle intensely mentally, choosing to do the right thing. But Commander Sung-hyuk did not give him much time, urging him, is there a problem? Choosing between living alone and dying in a group, Sung-hoon quickly made his choice. Of course, he did not object to his superior's command. Meanwhile, Sungjae furiously yelled, do you know the situation here to give such an order? And that Sung-hoon guy, how dare he open his mouth and say that the people here will be buried with it? What does that matter compared to my own life? Sung-hoon's head spun continuously, coming up with all sorts of convincing reasons about what people would think of us Ares apostles. Sungjae's eyes widened in surprise. What time is it to be talking about what others think? That is right, Sung-hoon had thought it through. If the news about the Spider Queen leaked out, the power and faith in the supreme gods would surely decrease, affecting the gods' protection. Ignoring Sungjae's annoyance, Sung-hoon told him to come quickly. Only 2 people could be taken with the last teleportation. But Jimin is still here. How can I tell him to go? Not to mention there are many other people who need help. The more he spoke, Sung-hoon became more impatient. What is there to question about those who stay being buried with the building? Why keep asking? If so, he would not hesitate to leave Sungjae here to die with these nobodies. Looking at Sung-hoon's arm covered in ice, it was clear he was not joking. There were many reasons to obey the order, and if Sungjae was so attached to the people here, just kill them to ease their pain, right? Sung-hoon's cruelty infuriated Sungjae. He roared, summoning the Highland Holy Fire to engulf himself, only to be met with Sung-hoon's delighted laughter. I am completely on a different level from you, so be sure to think it through. Before he could finish his advice to the apostle, Sung-hoon was hit by something from behind, falling face first onto the ground. It was the gigantic body of a centipede, pinning him to the tiled floor. John's Gucci-shoed foot appeared immediately, asking what are these kids still doing here? The knife he carried from Sungjae's house must be a genuine high-quality item from a sushi restaurant. It had been slashing and dicing all this time without chipping. Now he just wanted to herd these bratty kids outside. Sungjae told him the door was blocked, so they were stuck here. To get out, they could only use Sung-hoon's instant teleportation, which was currently face down on the ground. Or think more boldly, which was to eliminate all these damn beasts here and then find another unblocked path to escape. There are many injured people here who cannot even walk. How can we all escape together? Time is limited. The Ares apostles are sealing this place to bury everyone talking about it. Made it seem so hazy that even Jeon had to curse a few times. Behind him, Sung-hoon struggled to his feet from the rubble. Then he exerted his power, blowing away the things that had just crushed him to the noisy floor. You want to abandon this place and leave everyone behind, talking for a long time, not killing anyone and still getting beaten up. Sung-hoon stared at his phone, gritting his teeth, saying he would leave this place by himself. Perhaps the spider had a special affection for Sung-hoon, because as soon as he said that, it sprayed a web of silk harder than superglue, tying Sung-hoon down to stay with it. He widened his eyes. He never expected to receive the spider's affection when he wanted to leave the most. It sucked Sung-hoon into its mouth, keeping him as its own for sure to avoid noisy arguments. The phone used for instant teleportation clattered to the ground, as if calling them back to reality. The Spider Queen was still in the supermarket. John opened his mouth, saying the first polite sentence of the day, asking the 2 young men to take care of the injured. He would take care of these disgusting things. Probably fearing his younger brothers would not believe him, Jeon emitted a faint, holy light all over his body, reiterating, "I will deal with this quickly." At that time outside the Ares, apostles were trying to reconnect the roof of the barrier outside the supermarket. Yang Wei had just arrived and saw that the job was not done, asking why the progress was so slow, making his subordinates sweat profusely. Because they had been working diligently, not daring to browse TikTok, but this ceiling layer felt so strange, boss. Clearly something was obstructing it. As soon as he finished speaking, a blinding blue-white light shot out from inside the supermarket, making the Ares apostles quickly dodge to avoid going blind. The image of a gigantic half-blue, half-white snake coiling shot out from the supermarket roof, emitting a terrifying energy that knocked the people to the ground. Yang Wei could not believe his eyes. It was a snake. Then, just a second later, everyone in the supermarket streamed out, screaming and yelling, rushing to hug the bodyguards outside. They panicked, pulling and dragging, telling the situation inside that someone was killing the spider monsters, and they wanted to be released, but for now, no one had managed to get out. Yang Wei's face turned ashen hearing those words. No way a spider queen he could not defeat, yet someone else could. He had to go check for himself to be sure. Yang Wei told his subordinates to clear a path for him, but they kept blocking him. Tired of it, Yang Wei flung his body over the top, towards a broken glass walkway. As soon as he landed inside, John appeared out of nowhere smiling. "Hello, long time no see. Are you not happy or why are you so startled?" Yang Wei almost shat his pants. "Can we greet each other less abruptly? He is 40 years old, you know. Middle-aged men often panic a lot, thanks to Yang Wei's quick reaction." The area outside was then alerted with emergency calls. Rescue teams quickly arrived at the scene, taking the injured for treatment. Among them were Sung Jae and Jimin, wrapped in blankets, sitting silently in a corner. Sung Jae was not physically injured, but primarily suffered from psychological trauma. He kept thinking, was that guy John? His appearance was completely different, but his movements were extremely similar. Sung Jae suddenly heard a familiar voice. It was from his father, Hugo, who had rushed over asking why he was still here. Sung Jae saw his father and immediately turned away, feigning annoyance, like a rebellious teenager, while Jimin's mouth gaped, almost wanting to rush over for the saint's autograph. Coming and going like an immortal riding clouds returning to Korea. Sung Jae did not even know when he came back, and now his son ignored him, not answering anything. Hugo was thinking of a way to talk to his son a moment later. He took a breath and asked about his health first. Then he got to the main point, asking about the person who eliminated the monsters inside the supermarket, but Sung Jae still did not answer. Hugo had punched countless disaster beasts, but he had not yet punched this son of his. Jimin probably knew that Uncle Sagittarius had a temper hotter than ice cream, so he opened his mouth and asked, "Sung Jae is brother Jeon, probably okay?" Hearing that sensitive name, Jimin was immediately grabbed. Hugo no longer maintained his image and irritably asked, "You just said brother John, where is he? Where is he?" Jimin's brain disconnected from the server for a few seconds. Then his John said he was brother John, who lived off others, not a saint like Uncle Hugo said. But if he was the one holding Uncle's knife, he was in the supermarket eliminating the Spider Queen. The matter was simple, but hearing it from Jimin's mouth made him feel a little confused. Hugo grabbed the boy's shoulder and asked again, to be sure, are you two, one or two? Suddenly the upper floor of the supermarket exploded with a violent bang. The walls turned to dust, bringing with it a lot of smoke. From the rubble came the panting sound of a man running. It was Yang Wei, now regretting all the meat he had consumed without exercising. No matter how much he ran, John was still in front of him, cackling. "It has been 20 years since we last met. Why are you so flustered, my friend Ares?" At this point, Yang Wei still could not figure out who the hell the person in front of him was. He still had to open his mouth and ask, "Who are you?" The feeling the person in front of him gave Yang Wei was extremely similar to John, but that person's face was covered in scars. His head was heavily bald. He had not had hair implants, not to mention his voice was completely different. And most importantly, there was no way John could be this young. Yang Wei was certain that the person in front of him was an older John, trying to scare him, so he started cursing first. John was suddenly cursed at, and did not know why. He mumbled, asking, "I am that guy. Why are you calling me a fraud?" Yang Wei stuck to the idea that some lunatic was impersonating John and gathered his strength, intending to punch him. Unexpectedly, Jeon lunged forward, punching him in the stomach, wanting to squeeze all the fat out, sending the Ares saint flying downwards. He even pursued him relentlessly. From mid-air, he punched him again, sending his overweight body crashing onto the ground below, then calmly landed next to him. John's lips still held a smile as he asked, "My dear friend, have you been eating too much lately that you forgot you need a beating to listen to others? Did your life bloom more joyfully after you eliminated me in the Demon Tower?" Each step towards Yang Wei was a reminder that the saints had devoured all his assets. Even his will was torn apart. "But it is okay, my dear friend. I am here today to kill you all, so money does not matter." He clenched his fists, hearing them crackling, then whispered his plan. After beating Yang Wei, he would go after his family friends, the Holy Guild, and then those scumbags. Everyone would get their share. The image of the entire Ares church collapsing at John's threat infuriated Yang Wei to some extent. He would not let him do such things so easily. Yang Wei endured the pain and stared intently at the person in front of him. For now he knew he was not just fooling around, but acting too fast. He had not been able to catch up with his moves. So the person in front of him was truly Lon, who had resurrected and emerged from that demon tower with a completely different appearance. Suddenly Yang Wei stood up, his expensive coat fluttering as he bowed his head, repeating, "If you are John, then you must prove to me that you are telling the truth." Yang Wei's entire body flew high, accompanied by new energy causing violent air currents. He opened up many spaces behind him, his eyes blazing with fire, wanting to resolve all doubts with force. The surrounding space swirled and was enveloped in red light. Below Yang Wei's feet, a formation in the shape of an Ares head appeared. Very quickly he had summoned the transformation spell. An ancient-style hat appeared on his head, mimicking the Ares supreme god Bide. The first saint of this zodiac had 7 different kinds of swords flying around him. Damn it, I remember that feeling, it is real. But that single ornate hat on his head showed that this fat guy had only summoned a fraction of his power, not all of it. Yang Wei did not reply. He simply pointed his index finger forward. Chains immediately appeared on the ground beneath Jian's feet, coiling tightly around him, pinning him down. His chubby face broke into a superior smile as he asked, "John, do you still think your daddy is weak now?" From the sky, hundreds of thousands of swords appeared, sharp and of all types, converging like a flock of fish. They surged forth, forming the supreme god Ares Bide's secret technique to punish dissenters. 7 gigantic beams of swords from Yang Wei extended, roaring towards John, blowing away all the dirt rocks and air in their path. His 2 eyes narrowed truly, like those who underestimate their foes, scoffing at flashy and expensive effects. "Shut your mouth, you dog." Yang Wei unleashed his skill, but did not forget to curse at John to relieve his frustration. This many swords embedded will turn him into a tattered human-shaped teddy bear. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of dirt and rocks being impaled by hundreds of thousands of swords exploded with a terrifying sound. When the smoke dissipated and the light from the supermarket's broken ceiling shone down, a vast pile of swords layered on top of each other created an incredibly majestic sight. Yang Wei did not know if John was dead or not. First he had to catch his breath, being so fat. Fighting a long battle, this guy was exhausted. He needed to go home and eat 2 buckets of fried chicken to regain his strength. After a moment of no movement, Yang Wei landed, enjoying the feeling of victory. Finally, the foolish one died, facing someone with vast experience. This mountain of swords had buried John as easily as Pi had 20 years past, and this guy still thought he was the 13th saint. Yang Wei was laughing with joy. Suddenly, from the bottom of the pile of swords, a familiar blue light emanated, as if not wanting him to wait long. No way, Yang Wei's eyes seemed to go blank. He could only stand there watching the blue-white power inside hurl all the swords he had embedded into the ground. John, covered in blood, burst out of the pile of swords, but still had enough strength to punch Yang Wei's chubby face. No pain, no money. His tattered clothes fluttered in the wind, knocking the fat guy into the wall behind, punching away his arrogance. Yang Wei's lips trembled, covering his half-broken teeth, both scared and bewildered, unable to understand how he could have survived that blow. Was this truly John, not a fake? So you recognize me? Huh? You are not used to seeing me without scars right now. I am full of scars, my friend. Look closely. John's eyes flashed with excited blue light as he kicked Yang Wei in the chest. Your daddy is back and stronger than ever, my son. Suddenly, Jian stood up straight, covering his nose with his hand, complaining, "These damn swords must have been dug up from some dump. They smell horrible." Yang Wei did not reply, his eyes fixed on Jian's firm body, ignoring the blood dripping from his nose. It was not that this fat guy was gay or anything, but his recovery speed was too incredible. Even an Aquarius healer could not do that. But Yang Wei had no idea it was not his wounds recovering, but the system that had revived John from the dead, granting him the 13th sense skill. And then the conversation was over. Now it is time for business. He stepped on Yang Wei, saying, "Now, how can I make my dear friend remember me forever? A supreme god should only manifest when a saint transforms, but thanks to the system." John saw Bide scolding Yang Wei for letting him live until now. How could he have known he could only stay silent, unable to answer the supreme god? In an instant, Bide vanished, leaving a curse on Yang Wei. He shrieked. Why did the supreme god disappear? Jian pretended to know nothing, laughing. Perhaps he knew these things were useless and gave up. Even the supreme god fled now. Lon would be very pleased to show Yang Wei what true joy buried in the demon tower was. But he was also easygoing. He would simply share what he received back then with Yang Wei just for fun. A moment later, his subordinates and Hugo managed to get inside. They only saw a messy pile of rubble, as if a titan had just crashed down here. In the corner where the supermarket once stood, corpses of disaster beasts lay exposed. Clearly the aftermath of a fierce battle. Hugo stood in silence for a moment. Suddenly he realized this lingering energy felt very familiar to him. Was it Yang Wei? He was lying beneath their feet, emitting an energy that showed he had been severely beaten. Hugo massaged his forehead. It was like hearing his teacher complain about his son. It was definitely John, no one else. The Ares apostles could not see like Hugo. They only felt the energy emanating from below him was clearly weak. Not knowing how to dig this pile up, Hugo unleashed his golden power into his hand, ordering the others to quickly retreat. Who would dare to stand there? The apostles immediately retreated, allowing Hugo to punch through the ground. This place was already ruined, and now it was even worse. Hugo plunged down into the hole he had just created. As soon as he landed, he immediately adjusted his clothes. He did not know if he was looking for a dying Yang Wei, or if he was meeting an old friend after 20 years. But Hugo saw no one. He only saw something very much like John. He had found a piece of paper with 4 words, "cheap asshole," stuck on Yang Wei's chest, who lay like a dog poisoned, then disappeared somewhere. He was going to fulfill his promise to Yang Wei, right? After beating him, he would go to his family, friends, and the Holy Guild. Not knowing how to dig this pile up, Hugo unleashed his golden power into his hand, ordering the others to quickly retreat. Who would dare to stand there? The apostles immediately retreated, allowing Hugo to punch through the ground. This place was already ruined, and now it was even worse. Hugo plunged down into the hole he had just created. As soon as he landed, he immediately adjusted his clothes. He did not know if he was looking for a dying Yang Wei, or if he was meeting an old friend after 20 years. But Hugo saw no one. He only saw something very much like John. He had found a piece of paper with 4 words, "cheap asshole," stuck on Yang Wei's chest, who lay like a dog poisoned, then disappeared somewhere. He was going to fulfill his promise to Yang Wei, right? After beating him, he would go to his family friends and the Holy Guild, and the holy relic Yang Wei stole from him must be inside, not anywhere else. Outside there was a flashy Ares emblem. Inside there were many people taking pictures and visiting the exhibits. There was also an ugly statue of Yang Wei placed right in the center of the hall. Truly a rich guy with too much money and delusions of grandeur. Just looking at it made him constipated. He also often glared at people for them to admire. John walked around for a while feeling his holy relic calling from a pathway. But when he arrived, he only saw some clothes he used to wear and weapons that were clearly photoshopped, but they dared to put them in a display case for people to admire. Truly, the Clown King of the Zodiac. Finally, he found what he had been looking for. A long, thin object placed on a velvet cloth with an information plaque in front of it. John's used toothpick. He could not believe that among so many items he found something with his enzymes here. How could he not be happy? The people visiting the Ares mansion suddenly heard the loud crashing sound of a large glass panel falling. Alarms blared continuously from the ceiling, reporting a thief had arrived to surround him. In the hallway, apostles ran frantically, each looking extremely tense. All because of a guy in a dragon robe who stole a toothpick. High-intensity lights shone on him. Hundreds of bodyguards rushed forward, forming a circle looking like an audience at a concert. Bringing the artist up, holding his prop. Humph, with a soft grunt. I am not putting it down, so what? His 2 fingers held the toothpick, flicking it up and down gently. But with each flick of his hand, those people screamed as if something had just cut through them. All 100 people there were soon blown away by John's power, leaving him alone to happily walk down the hallway and outside. It is true that using something familiar is always the best. He still did not stop. He kept flicking it back and forth. His enjoyment only made the screams behind him more desperate. The toothpick in his hand had at some point transformed into something half bun-shaped, half peach-shaped. Smiling happily at him, he had just found his relic. The system reported it belonged to the production system with the characteristic of transformation. From this, it unlocked the creative workshop skill for John, a workshop 1.5 meters wide. From now on, John had the skill to produce, repair, and disassemble any creations he wanted. This slime relic grew large and slithered onto his cheek, affectionately cuddling him, just like a dog meeting its owner. After a long time, he was about to go out. John's eyes fixed on a door with an Ares symbol emitting a strong golden light. Suddenly, he got a mischievous idea. Since I am here, why not steal something? It would be a waste not to. He was going to be accused of stealing anyway. Why not take something? It would be a waste for them to laugh at him for coming all this way just for one thing. Until Hugo arrived panting. The mansion was burnt down, black smoke billowing into the air. People who had come for a relaxing day were now running for their lives. Unlucky ones might linger and become burnt victims. Their families would have to embalm them. Chasing like a dog, but still could not catch up to his perverted friend, who did all sorts of strange things. Hugo cried silent tears. Now he just hoped to find John. The people were running chaotic. John walked alone through a side door carrying a huge bag of loot, dragging on the ground and complaining he was starving. Finally, Hugo found him. He yelled out, but John was not at all surprised to see him. He even politely asked Otaksu, hello friend. It has been 20 years, friend. It was not just yesterday, so come here and say hello to me. That is fine. John stood still waiting for Hugo's hug. Unexpectedly, he rushed headlong towards some bewildered guy behind him who was grabbed by Hugo and shaken until his brain almost fell out. In his ear, he heard nagging mixed with questions. No one understood what was happening after this incident. The guy probably needed a haircut. His hair was a bit too long past his shoulders. He was mistaken for the male lead, which annoyed John a lot. He threw a kick straight at Hugo's face to remind him what his friend looked like. If you have lazy eyes, that's fine, but why ask if that guy with long hair is okay? Luckily, that long-haired brother was not implicated, and now he's still marveling at how Jeon's kick hit his face perfectly. It was amazing. Seeing the family strife, the young man limped away, leaving John looking at his friend rolling on the ground, still bitterly cursing. Is that what friends are like, a squashed bug? So much trouble he made. Hugo was so shaken by the kick that he had not heard John's curses. His eyes just stared at the lime on his shoulder, realizing it was his friend John's holy fate. And the crossed eyes from his shoulder upward met John's face full of bulging veins as he gritted his teeth and asked, do you need a few more punches to clear your head, Taiksu? Brother John, he rushed forward and hugged the person in front of him, finally realizing his friend was not the weirdo from earlier. Tears and snot flowed down a touching reunion scene of 2 friends for 20 years. It was very dramatic. Then Hugo took a punch to the stomach from his friend. Damn it, 20 years without leaving the demon tower, and I am still straight. What kind of hugging is this in broad daylight? This punch was too high quality. It was definitely. John Hugo did not dare to argue. He was about to start cursing again. The system suddenly popped up in front of him, announcing that Apollon the Sagittarius, Supreme God, had appeared. What the hell, Sagittarius Supreme God? Why did he appear to him instead of Hugo? Suddenly, a blinding golden light almost burst their eyes. Apollon abruptly appeared grandly behind Hugo, and then he closed his eyes slowly. and opened them just like Sailor Moon transforming. Both Hugo and Jeon were stunned, staring at the supreme god in front of them. Although he was very handsome with flashy effects and filters, who could tell these two gods what Apollon was doing here? As soon as Apollon appeared, he frowned, looking at the two below with obvious suspicion without saying a word. Hugo looked visibly confused. Why did his supreme god show up at this moment? And also staring at his friend Jeon, who had just returned from the dead with that expression. Only the system knew before the Sagittarius supreme god spoke that Apollo had many doubts about his survival. Full of confusion, Apollo whispered privately to Hugo, asking him to check if this was the real Jeon or a Chinese knockoff. Damn it, the supreme god wanted to test him by putting an arrow in his ass to see what would happen. Jeon had been annoyed all this time, but had not said anything yet. Sagittarius supreme god, not Cupid the god of love, to just pull out a bow and arrow and aim at other people's butts. Hugo stood in the middle trying to endure his anger, so Jeon decided to target his friend instead. Remember what he said on the phone. I am coming to kill you. Good luck now is the time for Jeon to uphold his word. As soon as he left the tower, he heard that his house had been sold, his will tampered with, and all his ancient artifacts had disappeared. Of course, he was angry. Both were saints, but now his friend looked so strange. Jeon looked extremely sinister. He was determined to give his friend a powerful punch to satisfy himself, then continued. A thump echoed, sounding like a heavy object falling to the ground, not just a light punch. Hugo's head was swollen from the punch, but he still smiled, thanking God for bringing his hot-headed friend back to him. If he did not hit me, it would not be him. He had not even dealt with Apollon yet. From inside the Ares mansion, countless people rushed out, pointing at Jeon, ganging up to catch the artifact thief. How could a saint just break into someone's house and steal things without permission? Hugo asked him what he had stolen that made so many people come. He pointed to the sack like Santa Claus's bag, saying he only took this much. What do you mean this much? Half of Yang Wei's belongings are in here already? Jeon put his hands on his hips, proudly asking his friend, do you think I am amazing? Hugo had hated that fat guy for a long time. Now seeing Jeon looting the Ares house, he was overjoyed. There was no need to pretend that stealing was bad anymore. The Ares mansion guards were about to charge, but the captain raised his hand to stop them. That guy is not an amateur like us. I have invited someone more capable to deal with him. As soon as he finished speaking, a strong wind suddenly picked up, making Hugo jump and look around to see what was happening. A shadow jumped down from the roof of the Ares mansion. It was the person the security team had invited. A giant foot slammed down onto the stone floor below. It was the Ares guardian deity, representing prosperity here to break Jeon's neck. The huge creature, half lion, half ram, roared, spitting out saliva as a greeting. Its shadow covered the two below Hugo. Immediately saw that a fierce fight was about to break out. He advised Jeon to throw away all the things he had gotten from Yang Wei. They could deal with it later when there was an opportunity. But he was not panicked like his friend. He even smiled confidently, reiterating that he was a man who lived with a plan. I am not some idiot who just barges into other people's houses to rob when he cannot win. He throws away his loot and runs right. Slime, give me a sword. His artifact laughed with delight. It knew its master's rude personality too well. The two eyes of the celestial peach glowed brightly. Hundreds of weapon images flashed past like a lottery wheel until the necessary item was chosen. Its entire body emitted a lovely pinkish light. Its mischievous mouth curved, spitting out a sword hilt for Jeon. He reached out and snatched it, pulling it out immediately. A cunning smile spread across his face. He swung his hand to reveal the sword in his palm. Unexpectedly, despite the swift motion, the sword looked like nothing more than a fruit knife. Jeon felt this size was not enough. He gripped it horizontally, mumbling, "Show me your true power." His entire body emitted the familiar blue light of the Ophiuchus. The air moved violently, as if gathering towards Jeon, making Hugo standing nearby confused. Isn't this energy too familiar? Suddenly from nowhere, a loud bang resounded on the tiled floor. It was Jeon appearing with the sword completely transformed, looking incredibly powerful and distinct. The blue aura emanating from it showed that this ancient sword had absorbed energy from the Ophiuchus constellation. He gained critical bug elemental points. For added prestige, a snake coiling around the hilt appeared, and the dark black blade had a spiky appearance,